Hello, good evening, Happy New Year. Back on stream today with a topic we already had in the past a couple of times. It's about Affinity Photo 2. I want this time to go again back into the workflow because I found a very interesting video from a person that is creating very good videos, instructive videos about photo editing. So I will add a link to the video I found in the description later. The guy who was presenting the video is Todd Dominey, and he was talking about his steps he takes for in general for photo editing. He is very good in explaining why the sequence of the steps he does and what exactly he does with each step. So I think I compare it with my process, my workflow, to see if I can optimize my workflow. I do at the end, my sequence is slightly different, but that's mostly due because the photos I edit are very narrow in topic, and workflow or the sequence he presents, he calls it framework. For me, it's a workflow, is more general for all type of photography. So that's where I think the main difference lays in. And when when my workflow changes from his, I will explain why I do it this way and not his way. Anyway, I recommend that you look afterwards at his video. It's very good, high quality video, very well explained, so worthwhile to watch. Let me give you here a short overview over his workflow, and then let's compare with mine. I have to switch the screen. Let's see if everything works. So roughly he starts with after import as a raw file with lens corrections, then he does a transform. What it means is if you have architectural pictures with buildings, he changes the perspective so that walls are straight and not inclined due to the distortion by the lens or the objective. Then he does the crop to get the object a little bit better arranged. He then does a white balance, and the argument he provides for this white balance at this point is that steps that follow afterwards may affect the color. Now, he actually explains it differently. So he says a white balance adjustment change color. So it makes no sense to first adjust colors and at the end do a white balance, because then you have to go back and readjust the colors. So that's why he does a white balance then, and an exposure. Exposure obviously also affects the color, intensity of colors, and that's why he does them before adjusting the color and also the contrast. At the end of the sequence, white balance, exposure, contrast, he goes and does color adjustments, saturation, the color shifting, etc. Then he makes a break, and after the break, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, he does nudge and burning. That means he does look how he can elevate the importance of certain elements in the photo versus others. So he kind of tries to pop out the main topic of the picture to give it a little bit more emotion. And then at the end he does a cleanup. A cleanup, that means he does remove disturbing elements, things that distract, that tries to pull away the attention from the main topic. And at the end, he does a final sharpening based on where he published the photo. That means if it's a social media photo, he does one type of sharpening. If it's for a print, he does a different one. So that's why he has a sharpening at the end. So let's compare that with my approach, which I tried to get them both on the screen. Let's see if that's possible. No, that's not really possible. So I have to do that different. Here I have my page where I describe, there's a web page about my sequence. So I don't have these nice titles, but at the end they are quite similar. So first I open, and now with Affinity Photo 2, before with Affinity Photo 1, there were some steps that were destructive in the sense of they will be burned on the raw file, the raw data of the file. So that's why I had them before any other non-destructive adjustments. And these were with Affinity Photo 1, these were like, how do you call, lens adjustments, clean up where I removed spots, lens spots and disturbing elements, and how do you call, obviously also the crop. Let me see, noise reduction, for example. Noise reduction was also a destructive change. It was burned on the original raw file. So I had them all before. I still kind of have the sequence, but now once I did the crop, which comes here like at step number 3, all other steps are non-destructive. So I can go back and adjust them whenever I have a need to do so. So this is quite a change from Affinity Photo 1 to Affinity Photo 2, and that's what I actually like a lot at Affinity Photo 2, so that all those changes I can go back. I didn't figure out how I can do the crop non-destructive. The reason why I do a crop at the beginning is because I don't have to care. In most of the cases, I take pictures of animals, and there will always happen crops, sometimes very heavily cropped, so it's just like half of the photo or 1/3, 1/6 of the photo. So I don't have to care about colors and balance all around. I just have to care what will end up in the final crop of the photo. So that's why I do it at the beginning. If I would do it at the end, it's kind of irrelevant if it's destructive or no, because I can't just go that step back. But I have to do it at the beginning, just because all the adjustments, I want to focus on what will end up on the end photo. So this is the crop step that is really at the beginning. He has a lens corrections. I do also lens correction. It's actually applied every time automatically. I will go through afterwards an example. I have found some photos we can look at, and we will go through the procedure there, and then you see at which point lens transformation, the lens adjustments happens. I don't do the transform. I never have to adjust perspective walls which are not vertical how they should be, or lines horizontal. Sometimes I have to turn the crop I take, but that happens when I do the crop. Sometimes the horizon is not vertical, so I have to turn the image slightly, but that happens with the crop. So the transform adjustments of perspective I never have to do. I never do architecture photos. That's mostly for architecture photo. I also don't do the white balance at the beginning. My reasoning here is, let's say, if you take wedding photos, portrait photos, or if you really try to get the natural colors, then it's reasonable to do that at the beginning, so you can adjust those colors, which should at no cost should change, so you can put them into the right toning, right tune, right hue, so they look natural. In my case, I have a more an artistic approach. I don't really care that much. I care that the yellow flower is yellow and a red bird is red, but if it's, I use the white balance as a creative artistic element. And that's why I put it more, why I put it at the end. So I completely agree with Todd that white balance, especially in photography where you have to fit colors to certain topics in your photo, that you have to put that before adjusting exposure, contrast, color, because they have to match the natural color. You cannot have a wedding photo with greenish faces or reddish faces. You have to adjust them. So I completely agree with his sequence here. It's just I don't do it this way because of the topic I'm using. I have the cleanup. You see, I have the cleanup just right after the crop. And I do that, I don't wait until the end, because first it's non-destructive, my cleanup. I can go back and add more cleanup, or I can revert cleanup. It's non-destructive. But in my experience, I prefer working with a photo where I removed all the lens spots, disturbing elements, then working with the photo where they are still on, and do the cleanup at the end. So I am not really sure why he does it at the end, but for me it's something that happens right after the crop. So we are here now. I do then noise reduction. That's for wildlife photography. It happens a lot that the light was too low, there are dark areas in it, there is some noise, and I have to remove it at this point. There's later I will have to do some second noise, kind of noise reduction, but I do it here just to get high quality to start with. So I do then, I rarely do exposure adjustments. Sometimes my exposure are quite good, so I never have to move the whole photo from one side to the other. And I definitely don't do contrast adjustments here at this point. I do it later. And for me, contrast is kind of, contrast and sharpening, they go hand in hand. So for me, that's contrast and sharpening, that's like one step. I do them, I have different approaches for this, and I do them near the end. Color, that's for me, what I do there a lot is I remove saturation of certain colors, increase saturation for other colors. Sometimes I have to change the hue, because and I do that with the white balance. It's too greenish, too bluish, too reddish, so I move there just to get the color balance a little bit nicer. Sometimes they are all over green. You'll see in my published photos that sometimes, especially with flowers, it's everything green, even the yellow gets greenish. So I do these kind of corrections. I do them here at this step. It's aligned with the sequence he does it. Touch and burning is, I do kind of this, but usually I have my bird, I have my animal, and I try to get the surrounding less important and the bird more important. I show you in the example I will go through later how exactly I do. It's kind of the same result as he has with touch and burning. My approach is slightly different, but it has the same result. So we'll see that they are still more or less in the same sequence. I do then is my sharpening. Sharpening is very important because I want to get at this stage the best out of the subject I took a photo of. And I have an approach. I explained one or two streams before how exactly I do that, and we will see it here again today, how I approach sharpening, contrast, and how I fix it with these. I have high-pass filters and the median Gaussian blur to fix problems that get introduced by sharpening. And vignette, for me, like these steps here are touch and burning as a result, similar to touch and burning. I rarely do landscape where you have like different areas you want to treat different. So in case I want to work with a landscape photo, I would use his approach here by lightening up, increasing contrast in certain areas, etc. But in my case, mostly not happen. I then apply a vignette, which is again helping to get the main topic popping out, and the surrounding getting less prominent. It's for me kind of getting into the area of touch and burning. And at the end, I do the white balance to warm up, cool down the image, change the coloring a little bit if necessary. I keep that at the very end if necessary. So it's like kind of an optional before I then export. I don't care because I don't do prints. I don't really have to consider in the export and sharpening print for print quality. The highest quality I publish is for Unsplash. And there I treat all the photos if I would publish it in Unsplash. So it's kind of goes hand in hand. To summarize this comparison is we have like this transform I never do. I don't have to do with the type of topics. We have the white balance not in the sequence like he has, and contrast I push it whiter down. So the white balance for me is at the end, and how do you call the exposure, the contrast I have together with the sharpening near the end. So it's quite different. It's also, I have to say, I just take photos of animals most of the time, 99% animals and flowers. So my topic is quite of limited. Anyway, I recommend that you look at this video. It's very well explained. He's a very good host for the information he is talking about in his video. So I learned a lot, and I am pretty sure you will find his videos interesting. So let's go back to look at an example. For that, I will load photos I took in September. It was like the first fall day in 2022. I found there some nice photos, and I also found something very interesting, which I wanted to talk about. That's not here. We have to go to, let me check, to my hard disk, media 2022. I think it was 22nd of September, first fall day, second fall day. And I was in Bac Bernard Laundry, which is in Laval. And what I found interesting here is the wood dogs. Now, I usually, let's say, I have here at the end, I have a sequence of wood dogs, adults, wood dogs. I think it's around here. Yeah, here we have 3 of them. So you see females and males. Males, they have still in fall the beautiful colors, how we know them and how photographers love them. Can you see that? Yeah, you should be able to see it. And here on the left and on the right, we have a female. Female, they have like these, obviously not the coloring of the head, but they have this white patch and the yellow ring around the eye. So that's how I knew. But then I saw this one. Let me get back up here. Here. So I was, what's this? Is it a female or is it a male? Is it a juvenile female, juvenile male? I am not so sure. So I, at the end, say, I think I took more of these. Is my idea is it's a juvenile male, and it's not a male out of the mating colors. It's a male, a juvenile male. The reason why I think that it is because of the lack of the white patch around the eye and the fact that he has a red eye. Because when I go back to look at the females, the female, you see here the male has this red eye and the female not. The only thing which are kind of a little bit disturbing in my result is the fact that the photo we just saw has a real dominant yellow ring around the eye, and which points to a female. So I would love to hear your comments about if you agree or disagree with my analysis, that this one here, it's a little bit slow here when I'm scrolling. Now I got too fast. Here, that this one here is a juvenile male. So next season he will develop his beautiful head color. But right now he is a season too short for being active. Let me see here, this one. This is very sharp. That's actually a kind of photo I could work with. I always like if a photo has like an animal and water, if there is how do you call reflection. I always like that. There is some, I have to do here some cleaning. So it's also a little bit distorted. Let me see if the other one is better. I have here the second one. It's a pity that here I'm a little bit too low. This one looks even, I like it even better than this one, but I would prefer, here we have the whole head and here we don't have. Here you see the lack of, it's absolutely sharp. So how do you call it? If I zoom in here, not sure if you can see that on the video, but it's perfectly sharp around the eye. I may let's have a look at the other one again. Even if I like the reflection in the water of the whole animal, in this case I may not work with that. It could be something like this. Let me, oh, that moves. Even cut the animal so that really his head is in the crop, something like this. I didn't want it to do that. Okay, so let's reveal this one and let's work with this one. Let's go through my sequence to show you each one of the steps with Affinity Photo 2. So we have to open with Affinity Photo 2. And try to get, maybe I can for a while keep the two screens here so that you can see at least partially which step we are here. Should be possible. Maybe I make it here a little bit bigger. Something like this, just to have the start. And here, anyway, I can get, I have a lot of space here, so I can make this part here a little bit smaller. Resize the screen here, and here with Command 0, I get it into the shot. So open now Affinity Photo 1. What I did here is noise reduction, cropping, all destructive adjustments, maybe even exposure shifts, etc. And then I developed. I don't do that I don't do that anymore. I go straight over into the develop persona, from the develop raw persona into the editing level. The only what I wanted to show you here is that I activate here the lens profile. Here, lens correction. So the lens correction is applied. It doesn't really make a difference here. It slightly distorts. I can, how do you call, it detects correctly the lens I'm using, but I was using with TC2. So let's see if they have it with, no. It's the correct lens, but they don't have it with the TC2 mounted. So it is what it is. But if, for example, landscape, when I use my 24-70 lens, then you see that there is a change. I tested that, but with this one, there's not really any big change. So, but the lens correction is applied, and it's destructive in the sense of if it's not something you can do adjust later. Yeah, that's incorrect. Actually, I have to correct me. You can do that. The thing is, with this Affinity Photo 2, you can say select. You can have, when you select the pixel layer and you move on to the next step, then it will be destructive. But if you have a raw layer embedded and you move on, so you can do all the adjustments you want to do back on the raw file, which means that if you want to go back and apply or remove lens correction, you can do that. Sorry for the confusion before. Now with Affinity Photo 2, raw the changes done in the raw persona are non-destructive. But anyway, so we go here directly to the next persona. I don't know how we call it, photo persona. That's how the official name is. And here the first thing I do is I apply the crop to get all that part of the photo I won't have in the final image. So I remove them at this place. So removes the time I need for cleanups, adjustments, etc. They are how they call better spent. I always use the original ratio. For some reason I just like landscape. I rarely work with portrait mode. So here I was kind of thinking something like this. I want to have here like head, maybe even a little bit something like this. Maybe a little bit more down. So yeah, you see, it's at the end. What I have more is like 1/4 of the image. Do I like it, or do I want to show more? Do I want to show the tail? I can also get exact the eye here in. I think that's the best I can do. Is it maybe a little bit blurry? Because here it looks very sharp, but here I'm not so sure. There is considerable noise. Let me see if you can see that here. You should be able to see it here on the stream now. It's quite noisy. Well, we'll get rid of that. It's not for Unsplash. I want to have that in my page in moo.com and in faunaflora.photography for as an example for a juvenile. And I will use also iNaturalist for getting some input from the community to tell me if this is a male juvenile or a female. As I told before, I think it's a male juvenile. Anyway, so we are here now. We did the crop. Here we do the dust. How we do the dust non-destructive is by adding a new pixel layer. And then we go here to select the inpainting brush tool. You remember, if you watched the stream before about Affinity Photo 2, I was complaining about this bug that when I do spot removal, that the cursor changes to a pointer instead of this circle I have here, and I have to make it smaller or bigger to get back to the circle. And it looks for me that I fixed it, because now it doesn't happen anymore. Let's say I am very disturbed about this little thing here. So why doesn't go smaller? With okay. Yeah, I had to manipulate here on top before it starts to trigger. Anyway, so I want to have this a little bit smaller, even more. So before, it doesn't happen anything because I have to change here current layer and below. So now I can remove these things here I'm not so fond of. There are not many, but here this one, second try. This one here. Curious how this will happen here, so it's okay. Just this disturbing. Here I have some bokeh. I don't know what was here throwing out water, but I'm fine with that. I don't really have to remove that. I could, let's say, what happens? I could make here my. See, so before they fixed the bug, when I clicked here, my circle changed to pointer and it stayed pointer. I had to resize it to get removed it. So here, I don't know where those circles come from. It may be that there was like some movement in the water, but it also kind of looks like a little bit dirt somewhere on the lens, but I don't think usually they look different. So this one is a little bit hard to get away of. Let me see if I can do it. Okay, so here we go. I have some stuff here I don't really like. Let's make it very small. Even smaller. Here you see your leg, and we want to remove his leg here. That's it. So it's non-destructive. I can always go back to this layer here and do additional adjustments or revert some adjustments I did. Oh, I found here a big one. Sorry about this. Here, this is a big circle. Let's remove that too. It's still there. It's I think even a bigger one is here now. It's like 1, 2, 3. Let's 1, 2, 3. Let's get away with them. Okay. So now we are. Let's make big screen again. Okay. So next step is noise reduction with live filter. This is here. I can go here to layer, new live filter, noise and denoise. And it introduces here a layer just on this pixel layer, but I can move it out. So it's now overlaying. And when I go in here, I see this is the noise I want to get rid of. So I move this over. I do this. Can you see? Let me make it bigger so you have it on the camera. So I move this slider up, up, up until they disappear. Still a little bit there. Let's say here. I do a second check here in the dark one, so that looks now good. Usually you should go to very dark spots to see what's going on. Now this obviously affects sharpness. It washes, but we will recover sharpness later. Now if you have like this coloring, sometimes you have like these sparkles of strange colors. Then I would use also this coloring noise. Then I would use this one here. Usually I don't need it. It's sometimes I don't recall exactly in which conditions that happens, but sometimes it happens. I have here a dark dot. I'm sorry. So that's the good thing here. I can go back to the layer where I do my adjustments, and then I can go here and remove this round dot. It's non-destructive from after the crop is fantastic, and not everything of these steps were possible to do non-destructive before, and I'm really happy with Affinity Photo 2 that they are now non-destructive. So noise reduction. Now we have adjustment layer. So this is where we do the coloring. This is a new adjustment layer, HSL. So in this case, let's say I could push a little bit the saturation overall. For that I have to click here. Slightly, that's way too much. Something like this. So the yellow pops a little bit up, the brownish, the blue, so everything goes up. And which color is not part of the bird? Mostly it's the green. So let's go the green down and make it a little bit darker, so it's getting less greenish. Did it worked? See what I do? No, not really. You see, nothing really changes, so it's not just green. So let's do something different. Let's get here back and let's use the picker. And now now it works. So the green here, the one I selected, was not exactly the green there. So now you see that the coloring goes away from the greenish, and when I do dark, I can almost get gray. So the only thing I want to pop up, now the blue is kind of intense. Let's not go so far down. Let's get a little bit up more here. Something like this. Now the colors I do like. Anyway, lately I figured out that my photos started to be more unitone. Before I was kind of as many colors as possible and cranking up the saturation, but lately my photos get more near black and white, so I have this tendency. So let's go here just for this case. Let's not go that dark in the, let's not remove the saturation on the greenish color that much. So a little bit, but not too much. Okay. Next is curves. Curves is like the first step of getting higher contrast. This is also a new adjustment layer. Curves is usually you do here like this S thing, so you get the darks a little bit. No, the darks darker and the lights lighter. So which increases the contrast. If you do it too much and you already modified saturation, it will get really popping in the colors. So something like this. This increases the contrast. You also use this sometimes to adjust saturation, because I can say, okay, if I have really nothing in this area, I can remove it. So when I do that, then it's kind of decompresses over by stretching out, but I don't have to be necessary here. Usually it's better to if the histogram is too much in the dark, too much in the light, and you want to move it in the one or the other direction, it's better to do that with exposure adjustments, if it's for the whole histogram to move it, not here. But sometimes I realize that I fix it fast here. Anyway, it's not necessary here. We have very dark and we have very light. There's nothing burned out. Maybe here's almost to be burned out, but it's okay. Test haze removal. So this is I sometimes run at this step just to see what happens if I do that. I do a new live filter adjustment. Live filter adjustments are the ones that are creating a new layer or on top of all and are non-destructive. So I can do here, I cannot do here haze removal. So the haze removal is I have to look into again, but the haze removal is destructive. So if I want to do a haze removal, I have to create a merge visible. And then I have here haze removal. It's not here. So new live filter haze removal. It's not here. So that would be a destructive on this. I mean, I can always switch it on. So haze removal is obviously it's used in landscape if you have like a cloudy, grayish clouds in the back, so you can remove them. But you can also use it in photos like this to get them popping. I don't want to have this happen. How do I computer starts to talk with me when I want to talk with you? So let me get you off so you don't hear what he wants to tell me. It still will pop up. Can I shut him down? Hello, no, I don't want you. I have to get rid of him. I don't want him to interrupt my explanation. Anyway, so you see, I did here the haze removal, and you see that it, how do you call it, changed. It made it more popping. So I can use this to get even more colors out of the photo. But it's merged, so how do you call, I would have to redo it if I change something here below. This is like with haze removal and without. Now the other thing I found is this one here. And that's a radial, where are you? Radial blur. So let me move here out. No, it's not the radial blur. Depth of field blur. This one here. So what you can do with this one, and this is for wildlife photography, is like fantastic, because sometimes you are not able to really get the surrounding out, so you can here introduce artificially depth of field blur. So in this case, let's say we want to have something like this. And then you can vibrance. Doesn't, I have to move it out here, again the same issue. So you see the radius is how many pixels are washed out. And the vibrance is popping out. Clarity kind of contrast. So you see how it gets more, I mean, way too strong. I make it here just to that you really see what's happening. So with this tool, I can afterwards, let's say if the animal is like a small portion and the setup where I took the photo didn't really allow me to blur out surrounding elements, with this I can do that. I also can use it for increasing the contrast in the main focus of the image. But this one here obviously is too strong. So I would here reduce the blur a little bit, something like this. And then you still can say, okay, at the end, this is a little bit too strong. You can use the opacity filter or the opacity to reduce the impact on your photo. But I think it's a tool I will quite frequently use in future, as well as the haze removal is something I am pretty sure I quite will use for getting higher contrast. Anyway, this remember when we go back to the what they call to Todd's procedure. These are for me like kind of this contrast sharpening step, which he has here at the end, and here for contrast I put them all together, and they are quite versus the end of the procedure. So let's go back and load here. Median, now comes my how they call sharpening. And sharpening is really to get like here, when we look at the eyes, for example, for the eye, it's just one eye here. To get here more structure in it, to get sharpened. What I do is I merge visible. I do a filter sharpen high pass, and this one is now way too high, so I start something like 0.4 pixel. Let me make, this is still way too, it's, yeah, no, it's okay. This one is okay. So you barely see the structure below. Could be maybe 0.3. Something like this, and apply. So now I hide this one and I create a new one, merge visible. I do the same, filter, blur, sharpen, high pass, and now I take the double, 0.6 pixel, apply, hide it, merge visible. I make 4 times, just to make you prepared of what's coming. So we have here blur, it's not blur, it's sharpen, high pass. So we are at 0.6, so it's 1.2 pixel. Now you already see it's everything pops out right now. Let's do one more, and I will explain in a moment why I do this. So let's merge visible again. Let's get a sharpen, high pass, 2.4 pixel, apply. Okay. So these at the end I will use something like, let's get here this one, rid of, let's activate this one. I will use something depending on the photo. It's even overlay, soft light, hard light, vivid light. There is sometimes slightly different. And, usually it's like overlay, it's normal. But I do see here, let's say, I'll zoom in here. Oops. See, vivid. I want to have this segmentation on the ring visible. So let's overlay. Let's make it a little bit smaller. And I think when I use here soft light, hard light, vivid light, it's better visible. It's more guessing then. Let's use vivid light. I want that you can see, it's not just a ring, it's actually like segmented structure within that. So I activate now this one too, go also to vivid light. I activate this one too, change it to vivid light. And this one, oops, not vivid light. Okay, so when you do this sharpening with a high pass, there is a moment where you start to get this halo here. And then with these steps, I just can switch them off and see where it disappears. And that's what I'm using. So here, let's say I have none of it. You see there's like a little bit of a kind of a contrasting that came in from my changes. Here is still fine, but this one is kind of in the border. So I think it's acceptable. Let's see here once. It's okay. If I would go one more, it introduces too much dark to get the contrast. So these two I won't use anymore. But you see now with this sharpening, I have here regained noise which I moved away before. And this is, I removed this again. This comes from the sharpening. It tries to get some structure out there. This is I remove with the median or Gaussian blur. So I do here a merge visible and introduce a filter. This is non-destructive. Let me see. Should be yeah. So I can introduce a Gaussian blur. So this is a none, but let's zoom in here. Here, let's see. Okay, so I go here. Let's say if I have 1 pixel, it's still there. Okay, that's because it's applied, just I have to move it out. Okay, so this is one now, 1 pixel. Obviously it's too much. Let me get, let's say 0.5 pixel. Oops, what happened? Let's move here. I never want to go over 1 pixel, because then I will lose the contrast again. But 1 pixel is kind of the limit, and I can clean up this noise again. I have now opacity 50%, so let's put this one to 100%. So this removes. It also removes sometimes this sharpening introduces like artificial spots, white spots, for whatever reason, and this treatment removes them. At the end I don't end up with opacity 100% on this one, so it's like 90%. I use Gaussian blur. I use medium blur to do this. I don't know. From now I just do the Gaussian blur. I will look into again which situation may medium blur and which Gaussian blur, but for right now it's that what I would be using to get this noise introduced by the sharpening again out. It's usually just like 1 pixel stuff appearing, and I have to get rid of them just for the quality of the picture. So this is the one, and then non-destructive. Again, these are all non-destructive in the sense of these are kind of destructive in the sense if I want to, I cannot just increase or decrease the high pass pixel. I have to recreate it, but I can just recreate a layer and then adjust. So we are here done. Why is it this? I don't know what this pink stuff here at the end means. Let's get me here on the screen. So we have at the end a layer. This is a new white balance, adjustment layer, white balance. So now here I can say it's too greenish, to whatever. I can move it. Usually I realize that I always move them to get a little bit colder. I don't know why this is. And let's say I move them more towards the blue. And if it gets starts to get here some greenish in it, I move that out or here just to get it a little bit colder. It's like seasonal, maybe it's age, relates with age, I don't know. But I realized the trend to get more colder image. I think this one here is where I want to end off. You see, it's kind of popping out. Maybe I overdid here a little bit, but I definitely see here the segmentation. It's not a fine line, it has structure in it. I don't really have burnt out areas. It will be perfectly fine for my page. I have here a page and I want to add it to, let's Wooddock. I will add it here as an example. So here you see the yellow with the white patch, female, male, female, male. So I want to add it here to this collection of photos. This is very old, I have to change it. So my first time I saw Wooddock here in Montreal. I arrived 2013, something like that. And my camera was not so good, it was a little bit far away, so this is not the perfect way to present this species. Here is it. When did I take it? Yeah, it was November 16th. And you see the Wooddock, this is in November, so the male has his colors. This one is May, he has his colors. And from my knowledge, he doesn't lose the mating colors. It's male, adult male, he keeps it. So this one we took, it's April. October is a female. So I have still some photos I have to activate. I have, let me see if I can show you here. Wooddock's photos here. So this one is I did a few days ago. It's from the same day here. Then I have here the female. They are not yet published in my webpage. I have to publish this. This is female with 3 ducklings from Botanical Garden, Montreal. Then we have this one is obviously a better one for a male. You also see here this segmentation. Any more Woodocks? Looks like I'm a fan of Woodocks. It's just they look actually very nice. So here I have another one. This is in Parc de la Visitation, Île de la Visitation, in Montreal. So this is a little bit far away, and you see the eye is not sharp, but here it's sharp, so the focus level was a little bit off. I have many, and there will come many more. Woodocks is a favorite topic, especially in spring. What I want to say is the male, for my knowledge, doesn't change the feathers, the coloring of the feathers, whole year long. I may switch, so they may be like looking a little bit strange for a short time, so because they change all their feathers. But usually they look all years the same. And this is not a, oops. This is not a male Wooddock out of the mating coloring, so it cannot be. Anyway, I think we did what I planned to do today. So we looked at Todd's sequence, compared it with my photo editing sequence. I discussed some Affinity Photo 2 great things to do, especially you can do steps non-destructive. They were destructive before. A really nice thing to have. And we walked again through my workflow with some adjustments I did over the last few weeks since my last Affinity Photo 2 stream. I have a lot of plans for this year, so I hope you stay with me. I'm not very regularly, but from time to time I will stream. I will stream about different topics and around wildlife photography video recordings. So stay tuned for the next stream. Thank you for watching. I wish you a wonderful evening, and again, Happy New Year.